Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As we have requested you to come today here, the main reason was talking about the one mass killing and genocide happened by the Zionist regime and American US regime in our country regarding the school in south part of Iran. I have something I will talk to you about that, and also something else, and then if there was any question, I'm ready to reply to you. You know, the 37 years after the downing of Iran Air Flight number 655, bearing the designation IR-655 over the waters of the Persian Gulf on 3rd July 1988, by a United States naval vessel, an act that resulted in the martyrdom of more than 290 passengers and crew aboard that flight. The criminal military forces of the United States of America have once again sustained their hands with the blood of 168 innocent and wrong Iranian school children. This crime was perpetrated at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday, 28 February 2026, in the vicinity of the coasts of the Persian Gulf. And you know, it was just the first day of the starting this act of aggression by the Zionist regime and USA against our country. By this attack, the Americans has done regarding to the Shajar Tayyib school primary school in south part of our country in Minab city. That thing happened, and they have caused the martyrdom of 168 innocent people. The attack on this school constitutes an extremely grave and multi-layered violation of the fundamental principles of international law and international humanitarian law, and falls within the category of war crimes and crimes against humanity. There are some titles that I want to talk about those with you, governing, for example, legal framework in international humanitarian law. For example, first, the principles of distinction. This principle, which constitutes the cornerstones of international humanitarian law, obliges parties to an armed conflict at all times to distinguish between military objectives and civilian objects. Attacks may be directed solely against combatant and military objectives. Schools, hospitals, and residential homes are targeted as civilian objects and are therefore protected. And any doubt concerning the nature of a target must be resolved in favor of its civilian charter. Second, the principle of proportionality. You know, it is very important. Even where a tragic target, even a target qualifies as a legitimate military objective, an attack against it is permissible only where the expected incidental harm to civilians and civilian objects, collateral damage, would not be excessive in relation to the concrete and direct military advantage anticipated from the attack. 3, the principle of precaution. Parties to an armed conflict are required to take all feasible precautions to avoid harm to civilians and civilian objects. This includes the obligation to select means and methods of attack that pose the least possible risk to civilians, as well as where circumstances permit the issues of effective advanced warnings. Regarding the assessment of the crime, the Shajar Tayyib Primary School was a civilian educational facility According to documented evidence and publicly available reports, this school was struck twice. They have attacked the hospital twice within a short interval, less than 1 hour, by United States Tomahawk missiles. Although it has been asserted that the school was located in proximity to military installation, the complete physical separation of the school from the facility, including its independent walls, separate entrance, and full isolation from the object's location, together with the firing of 2 missiles within a short period of time, indicates that the school itself constitutes an independent target for aggressors. Accordingly, under no circumstances could this school have been considered a lawful military objective, and the attack against it constitutes a clear violation of the principle of distinction. There are some different news and news agencies and reporters confirm that this school was a school, and everybody know, most probably and mostly by photographs and, for example, Google Maps and some other facilities that make it very clear that this place, which has been 2 times in a minute targeted by the U.S. Tomahawk missiles, is a school. Regarding the human rights analysis of the crime, let me talk to you regarding something. For example, the right of life. You know, by this attack, the right of life of the many people, especially the children, are undermined. The most evident violation in this incident is the deprivation of the right of life of the 168 children and their teachers. The right to life is the most fundamental of the all law human rights, and the deliberate, the reckless deprivation of individuals of this right constitutes one of the most serious forms of human rights violations. From the second point of view, the right of education. The right of education. By this attack, the right of the education for so many kids are undermined. 3, violation of the rights to a special protection of children against violation and armed conflict. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child, as a body responsible for monitoring the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, has placed particular emphasis on the necessity of the accountability for attack against education in situation of armed conflict. Paragraph 9 of the United Nations General Assembly resolution entitled The Right to Education in Emergency Situation on 2010 strongly condemns the international targeting of civilians, including students and teachers, as well as attacks against civilian facilities such as educational institutions, and recall that such acts may constitute grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions and amount the war crimes. There are fourth point of view, classification of the attack as a grave violation of children's rights. The United Nations classifies attacks on schools and hospitals, as well as the killing of children, as grave violations against children in situations of armed conflict. The report entitled Education Under Attack explicitly identifies such acts as constituting war crimes and crimes against humanity that may be subject to prosecution before the International Criminal Court. Fifth, the Safe School Declaration, an international framework for protection. In response to the increasing number of attacks on the schools, the Safe School Declaration was adopted by a group of states in 2015. This declaration constitutes an intergovernmental political commitment aimed at protecting the students, teachers, schools, and universities from the worst effects of armed conflict. To date, more than 120 countries have endorsed this declaration. Six, let me talk about the analysis of the MENAP incidents from the perspective of the rights of future generation. You know, by this attack to this school, a lot of perspectives of the human rights is undermined. For example, the future generations were directly destroyed by this attack. The most immediate and horrifying interpretation is that in this incident, a portion of Iran's future generation was physically eliminated. 168 students between age of 7 to 12, children who were to become the mothers, teachers, physicians, engineers, and active citizens of their society in the years to come, were killed. This constitutes not merely the destruction of a generation, but the killing of the future of a society. These children were deprived not only of their own rights to life and education, but also of all capacities, talents, and contributions they could have offered to their community in the future. From another point of view, violation of the rights of future generations to education and cultural heritage. This is very considered important by UNESCO declarations too. Another point of view is tangible cultural heritage, knowledge, skills, practices, and traditions that were to be carried forward by these students and transmitted by them to subsequent generations have been unfortunately lost. The right to sustain education, sustainable education. Future generations have the right to live in a society whose educational institutions are secure, resilient, and safe. The attack on the Minab school destroyed this secure environment in that region for years to come and left behind a legacy of fear and distrust. Regarding the creation of international trauma and psychological harm, it is very important, my friend. Extensive research concerning survivors of genocides and large-scale violence demonstrates that the trauma resulting from such a violence may be transmitted to subsequent generations. Regarding the psychological consequences, bereaved families, the local community, and even broader segments of a nation suffer profound and enduring wounds. Impacts on social capital. Events of this nature erode a society's social capital, trust, cooperation, and solidarity, which are essential foundations for progress and sustainable development, and their destructive effects may persist across generations. At the end, my friend, let me tell my last words in this section. The Minab wound is one that will endure not only upon the body of the present generations, but also upon that of Iran's future generations, unless the international community takes meaningful steps through decisive accountability and the establishment of effective mechanisms to prevent the recurrence of such tragedies, to heal it and ensure a safer future for all the children of the world. This was mostly regarding the Minab school. As you know, this attack has been happened against our country just on the holy months of Ramadan, and also eve of the new Iranian year. We stand before you at a time of profound sorrow and grave concern as the Islamic Republic of Iran continues to endure an unlawful campaign of military aggression. Over the past weeks, this aggression has not only targeted the strategic and military sites, but also increasingly and deliberately inflicted devastating harm upon civilians and vital civilian infrastructures. Almost among the most shocking and indefensible acts is the attack, as I've told you, to the Minab school, alongside numerous strikes on residential neighborhoods, health care facilities, and essential public services. These actions constitute clear violation of international humanitarian law and represent a blatant disregard for the sanctity of human life. There are some number of the destructions that happened and the life that has been lost and the martyrdom happened in our country from our great supreme leader Ayatollah Shahid Sayyid Ali Khamenei and some other high-ranking military officials to ordinary people on their houses, on the hospitals, in the schools. I don't want to take your time to read all of this for you, but let me talk about some sections. For example, despite these atrocities, the Iranian people have demonstrated remarkable resilience and unity. Even under bombardment, citizens have continued to uphold their civic and moral responsibility, including participation in public expressions of solidarity and resistance. The Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates its inherent right to self-defense under international law and has responded decisively to these acts of aggression. At the same time, we call upon the international community, the United Nations, and all defenders of human rights to condemn these violations unequivocally and to hold the perpetrators accountable. We urge the media to report responsibly and truthfully on these developments, ensuring that the voices of the victims are heard and that the realities on the ground are neither distorted nor ignored.